In this second screencast, which is part 2 of the introduction to the material, I'm going to show you how to download the basic software you need in order to access all the hyperlinks from within the Beamer or Notes files. So let me recap that you have already downloaded a folder which you've extracted from Blackboard using the zip, download and extract. And you'll see here 3 items. One is the Notes file, one is the Beamer file, and one will be all the files that we'll need accessible from these 2 Notes files. So what we first of all have to do is to download Adobe Flash Player. This may already be on your computer, but if not, open a standard browser window. From within Google, type Adobe Flash, and install that from the Adobe site. I don't want Google Chrome, so I'll get rid of that, and I don't want the toolbar. And I'll just install now. Run at the bottom. It'll look slightly different if you're using a Mac. So after a while that will start to download and install. And here it goes. And then we're part way through, it tells you it wants you to close Internet Explorer, so I'll just close that and retry. So having clicked finish, we now have Adobe Flash. I'll just close that browser now. In order to associate with all the Shockwave files, Internet Explorer and Flash, within the Files for Notes folder, double click that. Pick one of the files which is a Shockwave as described here. Right click that, open with, and it says select a program from a list of installed programs. So select that, click OK, and if you always want to associate the same program to open those files, use the checkbox, and I'm going to use Internet Explorer, so I'll select that and click OK, and it will open it. We don't want that now, but we can access that from the Notes file, so I'll just close that and go back. Secondly and lastly, I need to download GeoGebra. So again, open a standard browser window. From within Google, type GeoGebra and go to the GeoGebra site. Click download at the top, and then one can either install a simple piece of software that allows you to access the files so long as you're on the internet. I prefer to either use the complete Windows download or the Mac download. This is a Windows PC, so if I select that, run the program, and it'll install what is a free, safe piece of software that you can now use with any of the Notes files. So we wait patiently for that to download. Nearly done. So I'm going to run that, install it, agree, use the standard installation, so install. I don't want to run it straight away, so I'll uncheck that, finish. So we're now ready to go. Just close that browser window. So now from either of these 2 files, these PDF files, one can access all of those hyperlinks. So for example, from the notes file, open that, scroll down to that very first figure, which is here, and if I click the shockwave file and allow, after a short period of time it will open up in a shockwave browser. There we are, click play. You might need to turn the volume up.
We have a horizontal line x-ox called the x-axis and a vertical line y-oy.
And you'll be pleased to know it's not my voice. So all of those shockwave files will open up such as this, and you can play and pause and scroll back if you wish.
y-oy.
So I'm just going to close that now. In fact, I'm going to close all of those. So if I scroll down to the next figure, or maybe a more interesting one, a circle, again if I click the shockwave file and allow, it again opens a file. So each of those just give a brief description of the figures. Close that. Now again, for most of the figures there's an additional file called a GeoGebra file that some of you might be familiar with. So here we are, GeoGebra. Let me find a much more interesting one lower down. Let's take one, say here. Then if I click the GeoGebra file, because you've installed GeoGebra, when I click that and allow, after a short period of time it will open up the GeoGebra application. And then what you will see from many of the problems files, you can play around with GeoGebra. For example, here A is a parameter on the right, and if I change that parameter and move it along, you'll see it changes the shape of the curve. So lots of fun things we can do from within GeoGebra. I'll close that here, don't save. But if you go to the start menu, you'll see that GeoGebra is installed. So again, you can always access that from there. You don't need to sign in and play around with that. So just close all those tabs, close Adobe. Exactly the same happens for the Beamer file. So if you open that, Control L and scroll through, each of the figures will usually have two files associated with them. So for example, here on this page talks about an intersection of a parabola and a straight line, and you'll see a shockwave file link. Clicking that again opens up in Internet Explorer. And you can play.
Here we have the standard parabola y² minus 4ax.
Close all that, and again a GeoGebra file. You open that. And GeoGebra opens, which again you can play around with. So the next and last part, we're going to talk about the problems and solutions files.